humanitarian operations. So spent quite a bit of time. Then in the 90s, I was deployed to Europe when we were fighting the Balkan Wars. That went on. That wasn't as long as we thought it was going to be, blessedly, as was Desert Storm. But still, it did tie up a lot of resources. I did mostly targeting for that campaign, preparing target packages for pilots so that they wouldn't get shot down and would make it to their targets and be successful. So a lot of my military career was actually oriented around that sort of operation, making sure pilots got through their targets safely and that they did attack them successfully. So I was an intelligence officer all of my career, studying the enemy, trying to figure out where they were and making sure pilots got home safely from their missions. So my last assignment was the Pentagon, and I'll focus just a few minutes on that because it leads to why I chose the current career I'm in with New York Life. I do the New York Life Insurance Company and provide life insurance, long-term care plans, and just general investments and retirement plans. So 9/11, 2001, I'm sitting in my office at the Pentagon. It's a regular day. I got up at 4 a.m. Literally, that was my regular schedule. So I could get on the road by 5 to get to the Pentagon by 6, because a lot of work happens at the Pentagon before 8 a.m. A ton of work actually happens in that building very early in the morning and very late at night. My hours were typically about 6 to sometimes 8 or 9 o'clock at night. The only reason I would leave that early is because I had to catch a bus home, and that was the last bus I could get out of the Pentagon to get home. Otherwise, I probably would have been there till midnight because the work just never ends there. Anyway, the day starts. It's a beautiful day, as most of you remember. Bright, kind of just beginning to feel like fall, crispness in the air, beautiful blue sky, at least in DC that day. And I remember kind of looking up and noticing that beautiful day that was beginning to dawn on that morning. So I'm at my desk, I'm doing my normal routine, and I get a phone call from, I worked for a 2-star general at that time, whose office was next to mine. We were separated by a vault that I sat in a big vault, okay, because I dealt with classified stuff. Anyway, she calls me, her name was Frances, never forget it. Frances calls me, says, Donna, get over here quick, I need you. I said, oh, okay. And I'm thinking, oh God, I hope I haven't done something to offend the general. What's going on? I get over there to see. Frances points at a television set that's sitting in the general's office. She says, look at that. So I watched for a few minutes, and that's when the very first plane had flown into one of the towers there in New York City. And she said, what do you think about that? I said, Frances, planes don't get lost in the middle of big cities. I said, there's something really off about this. It doesn't make any sense. Well, while we're sitting there kind of talking about what we're seeing, then the second plane flies into that second tower. And I looked at her and I said, Frances, please go find the general. Is he here? She said, no, he's at some meeting, but I know where he's at. I said, go find him. I said, we're under attack. And she said, do you think so? I said, I know so. I said, this is not normal. So she runs off, and then it suddenly dawns on me that I wonder kind of where my husband is, because, I'm wondering, has he been watching this? So I go back to my vault. I call him up on the phone, and he has no idea anything's going on. So he immediately starts watching the TV set. Well, while I'm on the phone with him, now the Pentagon comes under attack. I don't realize the severity of it because it felt like an earthquake to me. The building just kind of shuddered and moved a little bit. And I'd been in earthquakes in Japan, so I kind of knew what one felt like. But I thought, well, earthquakes in Virginia are pretty rare. We're under attack. So I tell my husband, I said, I think we've been bombed. I got to go. Goodbye. I didn't say, I love you, or, I'm scared. I just hung up the phone on him and went into gear, because when something happens to the Pentagon, we all have our missions to do, and we know where to go and how to take care of ourselves when there's an attack, because the Pentagon's always the subject of some kind of threat every single day. So we all have things to do. There were people in my vault, so I got them out first. And then, because I was the senior person, I locked it up. And then I don't know why I locked it, but I did, because it was such a habit. And as soon as I stepped into the outer hallway from my vault, there's this large, I would just call it a herd of people moving towards me, very close quarters. Everyone's kind of packed in together, and they're just kind of moving towards me. I can barely find a place to get into that group to move with them. And the smell of JP4 aircraft fuel is very heavy. I see some smoke coming towards us, not a lot, but some. That's how quickly the smoke moved through the building. It took only moments, and it was just permeating the building, and the smell of it and all the confusion. So people are not panicked because we're so used to doing drills at the Pentagon. They're just sort of trying to leave the building in the easiest way that they can. So I kind of move into that big herd and I exit the building. And as I look back, I see this big side of the building that's on fire. And then I realized it was a plane, because with the JP4 smell, and now I see that half of the, some side of the building is almost destroyed. I realize what it is. Not too long after I get outside, I want to go back inside to check on people. But by then, first responders are showing up and they don't want people going back into their offices because it might be dangerous. So we're just forced to kind of watch this thing unfolding and wondering about our colleagues and what's happening to them. The side of the building that was attacked actually was three big organizations were over there: the Army's Personnel Headquarters, a Navy Operations Center, and then the Defense Intelligence Agency had a big budget office over there. All of those people were killed. At least the DIA group, I know all of them perished, and I had relationships with them because we did a lot of budget work with the Defense Intelligence Agency, because again, I was an intelligence officer. So I lost some very close friends in that attack. So that day, sorry, it does stay with me. It's a scar on me, right? And even on the day I had to distract myself and do something else because of the sadness I feel and the loss of my friends. But anyway, so moving on, eventually while we're standing outside, the part of the Pentagon that got hit also happened to have a helicopter pad where they brought the senior leaders back and forth from the White House and other places. Well, the fire has now moved far enough, it hits that helicopter pad and it blows up in a terrific explosion. And now we're realizing that this thing is really getting bigger. It's not going to be contained easily. It's a very big catastrophic event. But again, we're still there in the parking lot. I know this is going to sound stupid. We honestly thought we were going back to our offices to work that day. We thought, okay, they're going to contain the fire and we'll go back inside, because things had happened at the Pentagon before. As time went on, we were out there for hours actually before they finally made the declaration that we needed to go home. Now, I don't know if you all remember, but in DC that day, everybody got released to go home all at the same time. And some people just left on their own. They just got in their cars and they went home. So the whole town, cell phones wouldn't work. The town was in gridlock. You couldn't get anywhere, whether you had a car or not. You might be able to walk home if you lived close enough, but everything that was moving wasn't moving. It was just complete, gridlock. So anyway, I had to find a way to get home. I eventually did. I couldn't get all the way home because I lived too far from Pentagon. The guy that gave me a lift couldn't go that far. So I said, just get me to the metro stop at Springfield, Virginia. It's a major hub. I can call my husband from there. Maybe the cell phones will be working. So he gets me there and my cell phone still isn't working, but I noticed there's a payphone over in one corner and I had a little change in my pocket. Hey, people always carry change in your pocket. You never know when you might have to use a cell phone or something. So I had these quarters in my pocket. So I made a call to my husband on a payphone of all things and told him I was alive, I was fine. And I asked him, I'm sorry, to please call my mother and let her know I was still alive, because I knew my mother would think I was dead. My mother and my father would think I was dead. So he said, okay, I'll call him on we had a landline still at that point. I know landlines have gone out of style by now. But anyway, so he gets through to my mother and father and they know I'm okay. And my mother-in-law as well. So now everybody knows that Don is alive. But still, Steve's got to fight this gridlock traffic to get to me. So it takes him a really long time to get there. So now it's about 4:30 or 5 in the afternoon by the time we're reunited. And so the rest of the evening, we're just trying to process what's happened and figure it all out. So at midnight, I get a call from the Air Force telling me to put on my battle dress uniform, wear at war, and you're to report to work as early as you can get there. So I was on duty every day from September the 12th at 6 a.m. until Thanksgiving Day. I didn't have a break. I went in, and it was 12, 14, 16-hour days. Some days were so long, I didn't leave the Pentagon. I slept in my office because I didn't think I could make it home. I was so tired. And I wasn't the only one doing this. The whole building was on a wartime mode, right? And my first break was on Thanksgiving Day. I went home, went to work, came home for a few hours. I cooked some food for my husband and some other family. My nephew happened to be in town. He was in the Marine Corps, and I went back to work. And that went on for every holiday. I would go to work, come home for a few hours and go back. That went on for months and months and months and months and months. So I'm grateful to be alive. I'm glad that God saved me from that attack, but I grieve for my friends and colleagues that didn't make that building. So now this comes to why I chose what I'm doing. When New York Life first recruited me or talked to me about joining the company, I really wasn't initially interested. I didn't know a lot about life insurance, to be frank, but they told me something that changed my mind. And I share it with you now because it just goes to show you the kind of company that they are. So New York Life, when the two towers came down in New York City, a lot of their policyholders were in those two buildings. You know, hundreds and hundreds of people had New York Life policies. And if something happened to any of you on this event today, anything at all, and you have life insurance, the first thing that your family has to provide to the company is a copy of your death certificate. And they cannot pay the big check to your family until they have that death certificate. Well, obviously, the people that died on 9/11 died in a terrorist attack, and it would be hard to prove how they died, where they died, or any of the circumstances surrounding their death, because it's hard to prove. I mean, that's basically, let's be frank here, there was not much of anybody left of the Twin Towers. They, when they went down, there weren't really bodies to claim. It was a little bit different in the Pentagon, but not too much. So New York Life said, when the families call in, just pay their claims immediately. Do not delay. If you can deliver them in person, try and deliver them in person if at all possible, because that's how we do our business. We don't mail out checks. We take them to people in person. Okay. Sorry. Spam call. So when I heard that, I said, so how were you able to prove that the people had been in the buildings and actually were victims of the attack? They said, we accept the fact that people would tell us the truth. And if they didn't, then we just accept that loss. We thought it was more important to help our clients than worry about, what had really happened. So I thought about this myself, and I said, what if my husband, Steve, my late husband, Steve, he's since passed away since then. What if he's calling some life insurance company and they keep giving him the runaround? They say, well, we need Donna's death certificate. And he goes, I can't get it. The state of Virginia won't issue it. They want me to have all this proof that she was in the Pentagon. And all I know is she went to work and she didn't come home, right? So if that had been me, I thought, how wonderful to know that a company would have given him a check, even though they can't even prove where I was that day, just that I just didn't come home. So I took the job. I've been proud of it ever since, because they are the kind of company that backs the client. They really move heaven and earth to help people. And I'm extremely proud to be a part of the New York Life family. So thank you for letting me spend a minute talking about my career and why I chose New York Life and how proud I am to be with them. So thanks very much. Appreciate the time, Claire. Thank you. God bless.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Anybody? What a story, Donna. You really need to write a book. What a story. And you're here with us. That's the miracle. You're here right now. And you just went through a pandemic as well to add to the roster of world life events. So I think everybody should give her a big hand. And also thank you for your service. And thank you for continuing to be such a great pioneer. Now, you can meet Donna in person next week on Wednesday, and I'm sure she's going to have a table with us, and we'll have a lot of New York Life experiences. So please stop by Logan's Restaurant next Wednesday, the 28th, from noon to 4. We're going to have a lot of vendors and food and have a great time. So stop by. And Carol Brown's going to be there
Claire,
too.
Can I just share one more quick thing? I'm sorry.
Yes.
then we can talk about Carol for just a second. I don't want to forget this. So Brian, I wrote down what you said from Edmund Hillary. It's not the mountain that we conquer, but ourselves. So I actually put this on Facebook today after you made that comment, because all of us here have some mountain that we're climbing. I don't know if it's something to do with a personal challenge. It could be something to do with a family situation. Could be your business. There's some mountain we're climbing, right? And we need to realize that the real mountain is ourselves, right? And once we can conquer what's holding us back from getting on the top of that mountain, then that's the real victory, right? So for me, climbing the mountain was to realize that it was okay to have grief for my friends, but I had to move on because I had to get involved in the activities to stop terrorism so that I could honor their lives. It was hard to get back to work. I can't tell you, the next day going to that building, it looked like the building had been trashed by the worst party in US history. It was filthy, it smelled terrible. There were body bags in the courtyard. I had to walk by that. I mean, I can go on and on about the traumas of that first day and not wanting to get back to work, just wanting to grieve for my friends. But we knew we had to go to war to stop what had happened, right? To take revenge for that attack, to honor the dead, right? And the injured and their families.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead and talk about
No,
Carol.
I think you touched upon something, Donna. Because right now there's the pandemic and many people don't even want to go back to work. People are not motivated, and this is a very important message from Colonel Donna, because how do you pick yourself up after something like this? And I know the kids are just sitting on their couches with their computers and internet, and they don't want to talk to anybody, and they don't want to go anywhere, and they just want to be by themselves, because this is what the pandemic has done, taken away school, taken away interaction. Businesses have done that too. But you got to do it. You got to get up and you got to go back to work, and you got to believe in tomorrow. You can't let all the negative news and everything that's around you bother you, because you're here, you're alive, and you have to keep going. So this is the message that Donna has given you. You have to go to battle and you have to get there. So my next, and thank you, Donna, for that. We love you tremendously. Is there any question for Donna?